this is a obituary I wrote, but many people wrote on Gordon's passing, many extraordinary things. My favorite of this is the editors extracted this title, Dandy of Cybernetics, as the name of the article. Now, around this time, this book was written substantially by Glanville and Robinson, creating a bacchanalia of calculator games, which were all the rage at the time. Of course, they're not really calculator games, they're political statements disguised as games. And Gordon wrote a narrative for it and created some characters and figures that are interspersed. So in italics, there's a story. It's a kind of spy story. And the star of the story, from my point of view, is not an individual or even an android character, but rather the Eureka, which is this here pocket calculator. Here's the description. We made a mug of it at one point. And the beauty of the Eureka, in its subtlety and complexity, is that it actually fits in your pocket. That's the joke. So let me read a little bit of it. Our machine, the Eureka, supplied also with Corinthian and Ionic supporting pillars. If dismantled by removing all thumb screws, labeled A, see there's an A. If dismantled by removing thumb screws, fits easily into pockets, which of course is ludicrous and wonderful at the same time. There's a roulette wheel for true random number generation, because Gordon realized, as we all do, that you can't do random numbers in a computer, you can only do pseudo-random numbers. And a weather vane for navigation, and a compass, and so on. I interpreted this as an indictment of AI, based in deterministic machines, and anything that AI can build out of a Turing computable machine is no better than the Eureka. And this is, again, one of the prominent characters in the book, Calculator Saturnalia. Now, this era, of course, passed quickly. You couldn't just stand still. Technology keeps advancing. And I suggested to Gordon that we were moving into a new age of having desktop computers. And so, of course, Gordon immediately produced a desktop version of the Eureka, which comes with its own desk. Ahem. And here's a version with many, many more input-output devices. Here's an external display tube, which was quite useful. And there were many variations of this to inordinate complexity. Here's a multitasking, multiprocessor version of Eureka. And here is a landscape of Eurekas interspersed with trolleys and aqueduct-like, viaduct-like structures and people standing on tables and so on and so forth. Now, the Eureka represented not just a book, but also a musical. And I will claim a little bit of, shall we say, being the catalyst of this, because I said to Gordon one day, you wrote lyrics in the 50s, you haven't written lyrics lately, why not? And he said, And that was the end of it. I didn't think anything else would come of it. And then I come back to England at one point, and there's Linda Barsby, his PA, going over the usual stuff on the way. Here's the Petrie Memorandum, and here's the paper that you wanted for this, and here's the thing that's been submitted to that, and here's the letter to the various people, and here are the lyrics, and here's the manual. I said, wait, the what? The what? The lyrics. The lyrics. He had written a whole pile of lyrics. Here's one called Sophisticated Lady. Here's one called Cat Catastrophe Sue. It's about catastrophe theory. One of my favorites here is a production number. It requires a very large cast of dancing people. And it's called The Circular Causal Automaton. Let me just read you a little bit of it. This music, in this case, was written by Steve Perillo, and on another occasion was written by an English chap, Anthony Feldman. And so this is the Perillo version. But let me just read you this tiny bit of this era of adding to the archive music and lyrics. So here we have The Circular Causal Automaton. You inscrutable, you immutable time, controversial, irreversible, I'm caught up, brought up with the trickery of your deadpan tick-tock tickery, beat the clock to live life quickerly, time.